do about 150 transactions a month. And then there's maybe another 30, 40 commercial deals. I initially wanted to be an architect and, with, I guess, more traditional Eastern Asian parents, they encouraged me to pursue a career in law. Don't hire an agent because they're offering you 1% commission.
I still remember, I think it was the first time that we did a deal together. And then right after it closed, you actually text me, say, it's closed.
Yeah.
And then I feel that, hey, he actually tell me that it's closed. Now, let me ask you, how can someone be as young as only 27 years old able to open up his own law firm? He's been absolutely killing it the past few years while maintaining a super high level of customer satisfaction that truly sets them apart from other law firms. Today, I'm super honored to be able to interview Eric Lee. He's the Senior Managing Partner for Garrison Law. And welcome to our first episode of Real Talk with Nigel. First of all, thank you for joining our first ever Real Talk. This is kind of a series about casting. I'm going to invite some guests over, good friends or some businesses that I work with or I think really highly of. And today I have my good friend, Eric Lee. He's a managing partner for Garrison Law.
Thank you for having me.
We have done business before, so I'm a real estate agent. He is my go-to guy for all my real estate transactions. And there's a reason why I invited him to be on, and obviously, we have a really good working relationship, and I feel that, he's not like other lawyers that I worked with. Let me put it that way. So I'm very happy to have him. Thank you for your time.
Thank you again.
Coming on, and let's talk. Why don't you tell us about, more about your firm, when did you start, or maybe, how did you get into law? I mean, you're a really young guy, you're not even 30 yet, and you're a managing partner in a really established law firm already.
Right. So for the viewers at home, I'm 27. I got into law and the industry when I was 16. I was really fortunate. My high school basically had a co-op program, and so I initially wanted to be an architect. And with, I guess, more traditional Eastern Asian parents, they encouraged me to pursue a career in law. And so I said, why don't we give it a shot? And I was fortunate enough to get a placement at a boutique real estate law firm in Richmond Hill, actually. I was able to get a lot of experience there. They liked working with me, and so they offered me a full-time position. So I stayed there essentially throughout my entire undergrad and law school career. So that was I guess I was about there for almost 10 years. And then after that, as soon as I got called, I decided to kind of branch off on my own. And then with a couple of partners, we started our own firm right after that. This was probably in May 2021. Yeah.
Wow. It hasn't been long.
No, not at all. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. You said they offer you a full-time position, but you were still going through your undergrad and stuff like that?
Yes. So
how did you manage?
Right. So I was I didn't have much of a social life at the time, and it was my girlfriends at the time didn't appreciate my schedule too much, but I really saw the path that I wanted to take, and right. So I kind of just spent those years sort of just really dedicated to my craft. It was quite challenging at times to balance school and work and just try to keep up academically, but luckily everything kind of worked out, and so here I am.
That's amazing. So you put in the grind early, so that now you can enjoy the fruit of your success.
Yes, and they always say the good work is always just rewarded with more work. So the grind continues.
Look at you, you're 27 years old, you're a managing partner. That's amazing stuff.
Thank you.
So I'll tell you why I am so impressed by you, because before I met you, I worked with a number of real estate lawyers, right? I always feel that, they don't really want to talk to me. They don't want to keep me updated in terms of what's going on with the deal. But with you, it's completely different. We're actually on a WhatsApp basis, which is really unheard of with a lot of lawyers, right? Every time I ask them questions, they would feel that, I'm going to charge you, stuff like that, right? But I feel that you're always there trying to help the transaction to go through and stuff like that. Right. Maybe you can talk about your philosophy. Do you have ideology in terms of what you want to do with this law firm?
Right. So I guess the two main tenets of how I view kind of my practice is sort of value add in terms of how can I help my partners in the industry. And I think I used to think that this was the norm, but it seems like the whole partnership perspective, the more realtors or more mortgage agents I talk to, this seems to be sort of a kind of unique perspective, but also in terms of how I deliver client service. So, early on in my career, I was able to see sort of how different real estate law firms operated. Very low volume firms, excellent customer service.
Right.
And then you had lawyers that were doing hundreds, if not thousands of transactions a month. So, very profitable model. You could be making millions a month. However, it came at the expense of personalized experience and also, feeling with like you were actually close with your lawyer or building a relationship with your lawyer.
Right.
And so early on, I had a lot of clients complain about that when they were working with other lawyers. And, me at my other firm, we didn't necessarily have that model. We tried to strike a balance between doing volumes being profitable, but also still delivering excellent client service. So one of the things I established very early on when we established Garrison was that none of my clients would be signing with law clerks. So you hear stories about all the time. Oh, I never met the lawyer. I just met with his assistant. So we don't do that at all. Every client we meet on an in-person basis, whether it's in person or over Zoom. And so I want to build a connection with every single one of my clients. And so as we've gotten busier, we've just hired more lawyers. It's not as cost efficient as having an army of clerks, obviously, but I want my clients to know that their file is being taken care of by a competent professional. Not to take anything away, we have excellent support staff, but when you're paying for a lawyer, you deserve to have your file looked after. And then on that point, to just kind of add on with the partnership aspect. So I was really surprised that a lot of realtors or lawyers, don't communicate with realtors and stuff over WhatsApp. And the longer I've been in the industry, I do feel that I didn't notice that at first, but everyone seems to complain that, I can't get a hold of my lawyer.
Definitely. You're not the norm. I can tell you that.
I'm starting to realize that. And so I think a lot of how I deal with agents and mortgage professionals, it kind of goes down to how I view them. I view them as partners. So I know if I take care of them, that they're going to take care of me, in the sense that if I'm doing good work for their clients and we're getting the deal done, the client's looked after, every time they have an opportunity to refer a client to me, then I know that they're going to try their best to have them work with us. And so we've been able to kind of build a very high volume practice, organic based business. We do essentially no marketing. It's all through word of mouth, really.
Yeah.
And so I think from that perspective, when I talk to agents, they say, sometimes when I call the lawyer, it feels like, they don't want to talk to me at all, or like I'm a pest or something. And so, really, I really subscribe to the thought process or the mantra of, don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? There's a lot of people in various professions. I don't want to just single out lawyers. Sometimes they feel like they're above others, and that's a criticism that I've had a lot of people speak when they're talking about other lawyers. I don't want to criticize my friends in the bar, but that's just a complaint that I've heard a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just try to make it a much more collaborative process overall when we can help it.
Yeah, so I still remember there were a particular transaction that we were both working on,
Yes.
and then was very complicated situation. There were multiple like mortgage broker that were involved, and then we were texting back and forth along with my client.
Yeah.
And then we have a group chat going on, so it's just going back and forth. And I cannot imagine having that happen with any other lawyer. And because of that, we were able to not only like successfully close the deal.
Right.
It's just throughout the process. I have such a peace of mind because I know the situation is complicated,
Right.
but at least we have that communication channel open and then
Right.
we know what's going on. And I think that's key. I think throughout the process, we're able to build that level of trust. And that's why like I would never hesitate to recommend you to my clients, right? Whenever they ask, hey, you are my go-to guy, Eric, just give Eric a call. So
I
that's
think
definitely great.
sometimes I find it a little ironic because I feel like, oh shoot, it's our first deal together. It's messy, and then you're just hoping everything goes okay. And sometimes it's those difficult ones like where you're able to build the trust and establish the
Yeah,
relationship.
for sure, 100%. Do you mind roughly tell us about like how many transactions a month you're processing? right
Yeah,
now?
we do, like on the residential side, we do about 150 transactions a month, and then there's maybe another 30, 40 commercial deals.
So how do you manage? Like how can you manage your time and stay so hands-on? And what's your philosophy and what your day is like, right?
I do want to give a lot of credit to my team. I don't think I'd be able to do what I do without them. I think a lot of it is really just, I think, prioritizing, being mindful of just getting things out of the way when they come in. I find that especially with legal practice, you let things fester. They tend to get to the back burner, so to speak, because the issue that you run into is invariably every client that calls you, their matter is going to be the most important matter. When something comes in, you just try to take care of it immediately and then just move on to the next thing. That way, you're able to give 100% focus on whatever is at hand, take care of it, move on to the next thing. But my team is very dedicated. I mean, I think at least half of the staff regularly work into the evenings, so everyone's really around the clock. But I'm fortunate because everyone's dedicated. We're very accountable to one another,
Yeah.
and very committed to delivering excellent client service. So I think that is really the crux of it. It's more so I'm just a piece of the puzzle, so to speak, really.
You mentioned earlier that like you really wanted to get into architecture, right? But now you're practicing law, so
Right.
that's quite different, right? Do you miss architecture? How do you find the passion in law? Like when you practice law, do you have something you really want to? Like obviously you care about this a lot, or
Right.
else you wouldn't care so much about the customer experience. And you mentioned before that you view your clients as a partner throughout the transaction,
Right.
right? I think that's great, and I feel the same way as well. Like, how do you find that passion? Can you talk about what you really want to do through your firm?
I think my life philosophy is like if you're gonna do something, do it well. So I was just lucky to find something I happen to enjoy doing. And so, seeing even silly things like, we as professionals, we like to get our Google reviews up. So, that's sort of just a metric we arbitrarily use to kind of keep track of how well we're doing in terms of delivering client service. So I look at, because our business is primarily referral based, the busier we're getting, that means that we're doing good business and people are recommending our firm to their friends and family and clients. So to that end, like I'm always just trying to get the numbers higher, but that's just more. It's almost like a game to a certain extent. Like
Right.
how good can we do relative to everyone else? And I mean, I don't really pay too much attention to what everyone else is doing necessarily, but it is sort of you're just competing month to month. And one of the things I was very fortunate to see was even in these months where the market is slower right now.
Right.
October this past month was the busiest month we've ever had in the 2-year history, and this is after coming off of the interest highs of COVID. So just seeing that was a testament to like we're headed in the right direction.
That's awesome. So, what brings you the most satisfaction? Like when you're doing your job, like when you're like closing deals, like do you get rushed when you get the really complicated deals through?
Yeah, for sure. I think like working on bigger deals, more complex deals, like they are stimulating. So it's always trying to do good work and then getting entrusted with the bigger files, more complicated files. So, I have, as a lawyer myself, have grown too, right? So, as I've learned new things, we've been able to take on different types of matters like development work and things like that. So, to that end, there's still a lot for me to learn, honestly, but it's such a great experience just kind of picking up different aspects. Good real estate law is very broad, right? It brings into kind of consideration commercial law, corporate law, things like that.
Right. You said that your firm started in 2021, which is really not a long
No.
time, like 2 years. What achievement that you're most proud of, like throughout this short time?
Right. I think the thing I'm most proud of is we recently just hit our 10th team member on the firm.
Nice.
So I like to think in a 2-year span, that's a decent amount of growth in terms of
Oh, for
growing
sure.
the team. One of the interesting experiences, like one of the questions I get a lot from friends, not so much clients, is like, oh, like where do you find people to join your team? While we do have some experienced people that have been in the industry for a while, a lot of people are people I've known through my own circles, either friends or kind of acquaintances, that were looking for a career change. And so I brought them on board not so much because of their technical expertise, but because they had the right attitude.
Right.
Like some of the things I was speaking about earlier, like being accountable to your peers, caring deeply about the work, and wanting to deliver excellent service. Because when you get positive feedback from clients, it's very rewarding. And people that value that, I think, were a good fit. So some of these people I reached out to, and there's a big responsibility I feel as well, because these are people that are, they perhaps have comfortable jobs. Maybe they're not having the best time in those roles, but
Right.
they want to try something new. So I don't want to put them in a bad position by, bringing them on board. They're taking a huge risk working with me, and I'm still relatively young, and they're putting faith in me, and then next thing you know, we go belly up in a few months. So I've just tried to build an environment where there's sustainability, not just from a business perspective, but just from a human resource or kind of workplace environment. So everyone, as far as I can tell, enjoys working with the firm, and kind of growing that community, so to speak. I think has been the most rewarding thing for me about the practice itself. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So right now, I think a lot of like first-time home buyers, they find it difficult to navigate
Right.
this market, especially the interest rate is high, and sometimes they're not familiar with the whole real estate law behind the whole process, right? Like obviously, as realtor, I would give my recommendation,
Sure.
like try to keep the inspection clause in there, stuff like that. Like as a real estate lawyer, do you have any recommendations? And like, based on like hundreds of transactions a month, like is there any recommendation you can give to? Well, it doesn't have to be just first-time home buyers, like,
Right.
or just like people going through buying and selling, like the title fraud that we heard about from before. Is there any recommendations you can give to like the general public?
Yeah, I think one thing that you're gonna be in a vacuum, because you're gonna be leaning a lot on whoever you're hiring to be your advisor in a transaction. So whether that be your realtor or your real estate
Yeah.
lawyer, mortgage broker as well.
Yeah.
Those are some considerations I think that some people don't put a lot of consideration into, because it's usually a recommendation, but it might be a family member. So we unfortunately we see sometimes first time buyers, they hire a realtor because it's their cousin or it's somebody's it's their friend or something, not necessarily who's the most competent or qualified for the role. One of the biggest challenges is, sometimes I have a hard time telling them. We get into the closing time. I'm going through the agreement. There's perhaps a situation. Let's say something's broken. I have to tell them that the agreement was not drafted in the optimal way to protect their interests. And that's probably because they hired someone that, they got referred off of because of a personal relationship, not necessarily because they're good at their job. And then you have people that are, being price conscious is important. Obviously, real estate is very expensive. So it's important to find good value for whenever you're start shopping for mortgages or professional. But at the same time, for most people, it's going to be the biggest investment that they make in their life.
sure.
My biggest recommendation is don't skimp out when it comes to that. Don't hire an agent because they're offering you 1% commission. Don't hire a real estate lawyer because they're offering you a really low flat fee. Those things, I think, take away from the professionalism of our industries, because we always have people in our industries that do like price competition, but we're not really interested in that. We're here to differentiate based on what we're doing, right? So I think that ends up being actually the biggest pitfall that people encounter.
I think that's a really great point. One thing that I find is, right now, like I have a mortgage broker that I work with very closely. I have you as my legal kind of advisor, right? Sometimes I can ask you questions but that may not lead to a deal. But because you're always willing to give advice, I was able to give good advice to my clients as well. And when we actually have a transaction to come together, we're able to carry it all the way through. I find that extremely helpful. And like we also like we have that coherent process, right? Like we have a process where we are always communicating, and we know the whole background. It's not like, oh, I've done the deal, now I pass on to you as a lawyer to close it. It's not like that. Throughout the process, like through our mortgage specialist, through you, we know exactly what's going on, and find it extremely helpful. It's so clear, much higher level of comfort.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that just reflects your competency as well. I want to emphasize that, because when you're able to understand the other aspects of the transaction, it helps you reassure the client and guide them. Because I'm sure you've talked to a lot of realtors. Okay, after the deal's signed, the offer's firm, I hand it off to the other guys. I have no idea what's going on. So it's important that you're able to kind of still provide counsel for them and help them navigate through those difficult situations in particular.
Yes, I still remember. I think it was the first time that we did a deal together, and then right after it closed, you actually text me say it's closed.
Yeah.
And then I feel that, hey, he actually tell me that it's closed. Like I always have to call. Like sometimes I have to call my client. To see, hey, did it close? But you actually tell me.
So you can call and congratulate them.
Yes, exactly. It's great. That's very refreshing. So. You know what? I didn't even know that your law firm only started in 2021. And then you have gone such a long way in 2 years, and which absolutely incredible, right? You have seen like unbelievable growth, and congratulations. That's amazing. what's next for Garrison Law?
So I myself, I'm doing a lot more commercial work now, like development side,
Nice.
commercial, like real estate. I do want to continue growing my residential side, but as I'm expanding my team as well, because at the end of the day, I realize I can't answer every single phone call
Right.
myself. So I've been actively looking to expand my team with like-minded, like lawyers, law clerks, other support professionals, to be able to offer the same level of service. But there's of course many other competent lawyers out there. So of course, just wanting to give them the platform to grow their practices with me. So that's sort of the kind of immediate goal. Obviously, being in real estate, I have a keen interest in lending and also development. Those are potentially in the horizon. A lot of clients are often interested in kind of getting my 2 cents on their other ventures
Right.
in financing and whatnot. So yeah, who knows what the future holds, but those are two areas I would definitely be interested in. And then kind of being able to offer a sort of one-stop shop potentially in the future with our legal services and sort of the other arms or business that we're going to get into.
That's really awesome. I'm just thankful that I get to know you. It's such a breath of fresh air to be able to work with someone that actually like cares a lot throughout the process. I'm not saying that other lawyers doesn't care, but it's just experience that I've been working with you is very different from my previous experience. And I just want to give kudos to
Thank you.
And being so young, able to have your own law firm. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you for your time. And yeah, if you have any questions about this interview, like if you want to reach out to Eric, I'm going to have the contact information in the description of this video. And if you are a business or if you like to be interviewed, reach out and we can set it up. Very happy to connect and get to more like-minded individuals.